You are Locked On Trojans Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well. Fight on for old the sea. Fight on to victory. That was epic. Welcome to the Locked On Trojans Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed. For those of you that are loyal everydayers to the Locked On Trojans podcast and you're wondering, what the hell is this? Who the hell is this guy? Where's Mark? Yada, yada. Well, we're doing something new. We started at the beginning of the year. You may not be familiar. Postcasts come on right after the game, and we break it down. I am your host, Pete Fox, covering sports in LA dating back to 2007. I worked at ESPN LA, which at that time was the flagship for the Trojans radio network, and I believe they are again this year. I also worked at NBC Sports Radio for quite a few years, and I covered the Trojans for 5 to 6 years during that time at ESPN, where I was at practice every day at all the games and so forth. That all being said, I have not covered them in the last couple of years. So for those of you that are diehards and I, make a minor error here or there, or I say somebody was okay and you thought they were awful, or I say somebody was good and you thought they were fantastic, relax. It's the season opener. We're all getting familiar with this new Trojan team. Lots of new moving parts. And by all accounts, so far, so good. A 27-20 win over the LSU Tigers in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. A fantastic, tight, back and forth game. We'll get into all the details, primarily from the end working back, because this was a fantastic finish. The Trojans winning it in the final 2 minutes of the game on an awesome drive. Miller Moss seems to be the real deal. Caleb Williams was great, but I don't think they're losing much with Miller Moss. We'll get into all of that here in just a little bit, but first I want to tell you that this episode of the Locked On Trojans Postcast is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Fixes tired fast with zero sugar and convenient portable sizes. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. It's again that website, 5hourenergy.com. Check them out today. 27-20, the final here for the Trojans, who win this game coming from behind to beat LSU. And this was a fantastic battle by these two quarterbacks taking over for Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Miller Moss, of course, sat around and waited during the Caleb Williams stint in LA on the campus of USC. And Garrett Nussmeier sat there behind, what's his name? The Washington quarterback from San Bernardino. What's his name? Damn it, I forgot. Anyway, I just know him because he went to high school not far from where I live here in Riverside in San Bernardino. He, of course, then went to ASU and then transferred into LSU and then won the Heisman last year. Of course, if you guys want to chime in, feel free to jump in the comments. A lot of the regulars here from the Locked On Dodgers postcast who got absolutely bombed today. Let's take it easy, Manuel. They do not suck. They are the best team in baseball. Had a tough day today, which was it's because I was focused on the Trojan game and not on the Dodger game. They got hammered with 14-3 or something. I guess if you're going to go down in flames, which is not what the Trojans did tonight. Miller Moss on that final drive, 5 of 6. It was an 8-play, 75-yard drive. First down on a run after a nice catch there from Richardson, and then a first down catch from Hudson. Then the Trojans had a false start, and then Kyron Hudson again, his second highlight reel, one-handed, overwhelmingly spectacular catch of the game, which included a targeting play, got Gilbert tossed out of the game for LSU. It put the Trojans in chip shot field goal range, half the distance to the goal, but they didn't need it as Marks scampered up the middle for a touchdown to give the Trojans the 27-20 lead and the 27-20 win. So that was, I don't know if you could ask for more on a final drive. The one thing that I look at is the final 7 minutes of this game for the Trojans were fantastic. They basically dominated the end of this game. They had the ball at 6:57. They took over, complete pass to Kyron Hudson. It was a play action, good for a first down. Then Woody Marks, a nice run for a first down, 16 yards. That's one thing that I look at this game and I say, Woody Marks had a good game. It wasn't great. 16 carries, 68 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. The Trojans only ran it for 69 yards. That could have been better, but they did enough when it came to the play action, which was kind of surprising because they weren't really running the ball that well. So I don't know why the LSU linebackers were biting on the play action, but they were, and it was working for the Trojans. They definitely did more in the air with the 4 sophomore receivers who all seemingly had good games. We'll get into the details of the receiving box score here in just a little bit. But when it came to running the ball, they definitely were outperformed in that department by the LSU Tigers. They ran it for 117 yards, but primarily most of that happened in the second half because the Trojan defensive line, which is one of the big question marks coming into this season, was really good, bottling up the middle and keeping the Tigers from running the ball. They couldn't get anything going in the first half. Then John Emery broke one off in the second half. Josh Williams had a good game, 9 carries for 33 yards. Caleb Jackson, 6 carries, 18 yards, and Xavier Thomas, 1 carry, 5 yards. So, it's ultimately a really nice job from both defensive lines bottling up the run. But I think the Trojans defense deserves high marks across the board because we were all very, very curious as to what we were going to get. We didn't know. A new defensive coordinator, the guy coming over from UCLA, Danton Lynn. Some of the stuff I heard from my friend Ryan Abraham over at USCfootball.com on his Peristyle podcast was simply stating that Danton Lynn came in and simplified this defense, and it seemed to work. They had a bend, don't break mentality tonight on the defensive line. I thought the linebackers were getting after it. I thought the corners also were good, not great. They were pretty loose early in the game. That was some of my early notes, was that the corner coverage was just soft and loose. And at times it cost them, but not a lot, because when they got down into the red zone, they tightened things up. So, I'm sure that's part of what went into this retooling of the defense for the USC Trojans, which last year was awful. So the fact that they came out today and held a very good team to 20 points, that is very, very encouraging. And then you have to feel really good about Miller Moss's performance as well. 27 out of 36 for 378 and 1 touchdown. I've covered a lot of USC Trojans, quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy guys, Matt Barkley, guys that set Trojan records. I haven't seen a guy, and again, I didn't cover last year or the year before, so I wasn't all over what Caleb Williams was doing, and I get that Caleb Williams is good, very good, the real deal, an NFL prospect. But I look at this and I go, Miller Moss is the real deal. He brings energy, touch, he's quick, he seems to be able to be decisive, making plays. He's tough. There were a couple of times when he had hands in his face, defensive linemen all over him, and he got rid of the ball, fitting it into various receivers, and just a really exciting quarterback. So, coming off of Caleb Williams and Jalen Daniels, that's the other guy that played at LSU that won the Heisman last year. Garrett Nussmeier, also a really good performance there. So they have a new defensive coordinator as well. So there was a lot of question marks hanging around. What are we going to see? Like, who's going to prove that what these changes, all of these changes that were made who's going to prove that what they did was the right thing? Well, it appears that it was the Trojans, but taking nothing away from LSU, they played a good game, and their future is obviously bright as well. They have a lot of things to feel good about coming out of this game. It wasn't like they got blown out. Their offensive line and defensive line in the trenches did a very good job. I just feel ultimately like the Trojans had a few more big plays. That's really what it boiled down to at crunch time. So when it mattered most, the Trojans showed up. Be your best when your best is required. John Wooden, to the best of my knowledge. This is the Locked On Trojans postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. I'm Pete Fox, host of the Locked On Dodgers postcast, Locked On Trojans postcast, Locked On Chargers postcast, and I just recently learned that I'll be doing the Locked On Lakers postcast coming up this year. I did Clippers this past year, so that'll be interesting to cover the Lakers. But right now we're talking USC Trojan football on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed, so make sure you download it there. We'll come on after every game, right after the game, within a few minutes, and break it down for you. So thank you for joining me. I know a lot of you are still upset about the Dodgers loss. Daniel Barry, Dodgers loss was painful. Daniel, you can always just turn it off. That's why I'm feeling great about this win, that I was able to avert my eyes from the Dodgers loss. I was paying no attention because I felt like the last two Dodger wins were awesome. And I was still kind of riding on that high. Today, yes, an embarrassment. But let's not BC. I stopped watching at 8-0. That was a good call. It was a good call. Yeah, that was a low scoring football game there for the Dodgers, 14-3 against the Diamondbacks. But they still have a nice, comfortable 5-game lead in the West. Anyway, we're talking football here. Trojans a 27-20 win over the 13th ranked LSU Tigers in Las Vegas, the kickoff classic. I'm Pete Fox. It's the Locked On Trojans postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. All right, tonight's episode of the Locked On Trojans postcast is brought to you by... No, that's the wrong one. Sorry. 5 Hour Energy. Yeah. Sorry. Hit the wrong little thing there. Tackle a to-do list with 5 Hour Energy. It fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list of to-do for work or honeydew DIY projects to tackle at home, take 5 Hour Energy, get a shot, and you can get everything done on your list in a lickety-split amount of time. If you are like me, you always have a large list of projects for the home. When you get your supplies for the projects, do not forget the most essential supply, which is a 5 Hour Energy shot. 5 Hour Energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get in the zone. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and more. Every flavor there is interesting. Try them all. If you don't like the first one, keep going until you find one that you like. 5 Hour Energy is brand new, hardworking, is brand new, not brand new. 5 Hour Energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling that you need to get through a busy, hectic day. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com, all spelled out there, and get 5 Hour Energy products today. You can use the code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com and check it out. All right, Trojans, big drive in the final minutes of the game. The final 2 minutes, drive down the field, punch it in the end zone on a Woody Marks 4 or 5 yard touchdown run. Maybe it was 8. How long was that touchdown run? Anyway, it was enough to score the game winner for the Trojans, and 13-yard touchdown run. God, he scampered in there so quickly that it didn't seem like it was all that much. I guess we were more concerned with it being a chip shot field goal that would have more than likely won the game for the Trojans as well. That it seemed like an easy touchdown there for Woody Marks, who had a good game, 16 carries, 68 yards for 2 touchdowns. Quentin Joyner, 4 carries, 12 yards. Miller Moss ran -8. So that meant the Trojans ran for a total of 69 yards. But in the receiving category, lots to feel good about here. Of course, Kyron Hudson, 5 catches, 83 yards, 2 highlight reel catches. The first one, a one-handed grab. The second one, basically a one-handed grab. But the first one is the one you're going to see all over SportsCenter tonight, all over Instagram and X and, whatever social media platform you follow. That is the one where he was just out of control, just ridiculous. I mean, climbing the ladder, the defensive back was all over him. One-handed grab, pulls it down. It went to review. They held up the call. Many would think that it hit the ground. It did touch the ground, but he never really lost control of it. I'm sure LSU fans are grousing and griping about that call, saying that it was the wrong call and they got jobbed. But he had a fantastic day, again, leading the way with 83 yards. Zachariah Branch was awesome as well. 4 catches for 56 yards, no touchdowns. Mcree, 5 catches, 56 yards. The tight end had a fantastic game and was a main target for Miller Moss on these quick, short out routes or over the middle crossing patterns that made it look really easy for Miller Moss. I mean, Mcree was exactly what you would expect a tight end to be, the sure-handed big guy that, just kind of put it in his general vicinity. I'll pull it in and then scramble for a few yards afterwards. So a nice performance from him. Ja Kobi Lane had some big catches, 3 of them for 50 yards. Deuce Robinson, it seemed like that guy was catching balls all over the place, but he only had 2. Both of them were big for 49 yards. Kyle Ford, a nice performance, 2 big catches in the third quarter for 45 yards. Mekhi Lemon, 1 for 22. Woody Marks caught 3 balls for 7 yards. Cade Eldridge and Quentin Joyner each had 1 catch for a total of 10 yards. So that was nice as well. The fact that the Trojans made upgrades, in the transfer portal on the offensive line was nice to see. The defensive line, I thought, did a very, very good job, again, clogging up the middle. Bear was very good. That was the big name that everyone was talking about coming into the game. He's a junior, the one bit of experience on the team for the Trojans, but Nate Clifton had a big day as well. He was clogging up the middle, making plays and tackles on a regular basis as well. How many tackles did he have? Why is that not on here? That's weird. The box score looks different for college football than it does for NFL football. Why is that? That makes no sense to me. They only have the offensive stats, not the defensive stats. Fumbles, interceptions, kick returns, tackles. They don't have the tackles. How is that possible? What the heck is that all about? I apologize. I thought it would be the same, box score is a box score. I guess not. But yeah, Nate Clifton clogging up the middle had a really, really nice game as well. And in the first quarter, 4th and goal, USC had an LSU stop there, came away with empty. That's nice to see as well. So, clogging up the middle, the defensive line, and, in the red zone, the ability to keep them out of the end zone was awesome. I mean, that was a very good feeling because the defense for the Trojans last year was a disaster. And having D'Anton Lynn come over, bringing his style from UCLA, which was a top-ranked defense last year in the United States, simplified the defense from UCLA. This is what I heard on the USC Trojans, USC football podcast, the Peristyle podcast. Last year, UCLA's rush defense averaged 69 yards per game for the opponents, which was number 1 in America. So that's awesome. That's a confident feeling to have, and you could instantly see it. The other thing they spent a good time talking about today and got into pretty detailed was how the defensive line has increased in size from when they started camp till now. most of those guys put on 30 to 40 pounds, which is amazing. And especially when you looked at the pictures, they had the pictures of them, standing in their workout shorts with no shirt on. They didn't look like big, beefy, fat guys. They looked like slim, shredded athletes who put on 30 to 40 pounds of muscle. So they did a nice job stopping the run, slowing the run down. What I wasn't impressed was the USC was not getting after the quarterback. They did not make life tough on Garrett Nussmeier when it came to that. Although he did throw one interception, they were not getting up in his grill and making him hurry his passes. But the linebackers stopping the run, they were getting after it. They had a really good game as well. So at the first half, it was going well for both of them. I'm glad to see that they both continued it. Miller Moss, 13 of 16 for 176 yards, and Nussmeier, 20 of 24 for 191 yards after halftime. So a really good performance offensively. Both quarterbacks, both teams ran the ball well. Both teams' receivers did a fantastic job. And after the break, we'll get into a little bit about LSU's receiving core, who had a fantastic game and really probably feel like they let one slip away based on the numbers they put up today in a loss. 27-20 as USC wins their opener, the Kickoff Classic in Vegas, beating the LSU Tigers 27-20. I'm Pete Fox. This is the Locked On Trojans postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. You can also listen wherever you find your podcast on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed. That's where you find Mark Culkin Monday through Friday doing the Locked On Trojans podcast. Check him out as your first listen of the day. And then right after the game on Saturday or Sunday, I am your second listen, and we appreciate you everydayers making us your source for your team every day. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Trojans postcast is brought to you by Ultimate Football Head Coach. Locked On Trojans fans, you're going to like this. I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. It's called Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being head coach of the Trojans or the Tigers or the Bruins or whatever? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you can control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. If you're into power, this game is for you. Will you be able to handle the pressure is the big question. And here's what I really love about the game. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football team, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and whenever you want to. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com, ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up on the App Store. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. That game sounds like a lot of fun. I've only briefly checked it out. I've never had the desire to be a head football coach, so it's not really my thing, but it does sound cool. What I think is going to be hilarious about that, I guarantee you, as this game becomes more popular and more people get involved, they think playing this game on a regular basis is going to be enough to get them a college football coaching job or even a high school football coaching job. Hey, I play Ultimate College Football HC. I can do it for real. I can be a real head coach. And who knows? Maybe they can. I don't know. The Trojans, a 27-20 win. The corners did a really nice job today, crashing in to stop the LSU run. Although the LSU Tigers outran them by, about 40 yards. I feel like they did enough. And this is one of the group teams, position. What the hell am I trying to say? One of the position groups for the Trojans that hasn't had a bunch of change. Like most of the guys that are playing in the defensive backfield especially on the corners, are guys that were there last year. So ultimately, like Kamari Ramsey, who had a fantastic game, those guys have experience with this defense. They have experience with this team and appreciate. I heard on the USC football Peristyle podcast them talking about Kamari Ramsey, mentioning that the fact that they slimmed this down and made Danton Lynn's defense more easy to process, more easy to swallow and understand, it was something that he appreciated a lot, and most of the defenders did. D'Anton Lynn spent 9 years in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens, so he brings an NFL style as well. So there's a lot of positivity you have to assume tonight in that Trojans locker room after this 27-20 win over the LSU Tigers. One thing I have discovered about this game is I'm going to show you my notes for the game. I usually take about 2 pages of notes for a baseball game or a basketball game. I took 4 pages of notes for this game. And this is something, it's their first game of the year. It's my first game of the year when it comes to college football. I'm going to need to take way fewer notes because I can't even process all of the stuff that I wrote down. Second quarter, who cares? Trojans and Tigers were tied at 10 going into the break. Let's just go back and recap the fourth quarter as we only have a few more minutes here. USC struggled on the ground, but ultimately, they got it going and they won the game on a running touchdown. So that was good to see. But the pitch and catch to Lake Mcree, I can't even read my own damn writing there. Oh, misdirection play was good for a first down. That was a really solid play. I starred that play early in the fourth quarter because it really felt like the Trojan offensive coordinators, Lincoln Riley and the like, were opening up the playbook a little bit more, getting a little bit deeper into the play. Then right on the heels of that play to Lake Mcree, pass to Ja Kobi Lane. Under pressure, Miller Moss had a hand in his face. It was one of those plays where when you saw Ja Kobi Lane catch that ball, you were like, how did Miller Moss get rid of that ball? How did he fit it into him? So a fantastic heroic play there for Miller Moss with pressure. Then 3rd and 6, they ran the ball, nothing there. 4th and 9, a batted ball, and it was a turnover on down. So you like to see some aggression there, that they went for it on 4th and 9, but came up short. Then 3rd and 1 for LSU. The Trojans defense stuffed the run. Eric Gentry made a fantastic play, forcing a punt. And then with 6:57, it was pretty much all Trojans. Pass complete to Kyron Hudson on a play action. Good for a first down. Then Woody Marks, a nice run for a first down, 16 yards. And the touchdown to Ja Kobi Lane, a 28-yard touchdown pass for Miller Moss, which was spot on. The touch on that pass was utterly perfect. That was an NFL-style go route, and Ja Kobi caught that ball right in the breadbasket because that's where Miller Moss put it. And to make it even easier, he put it on the outside shoulder so the defensive back couldn't get to it. A spectacular, perfect pass from Miller Moss. So more of that is what the Trojans need. And Miller Moss, I think, is going to be fantastic for them this year. Jalen Smith had a big tackle on defense on the next series against LSU. Then a big play to Aaron Anderson, who got behind the defense there, first down. That was one where I thought, again, that the defensive backfield was just soft. They were playing way too loose. Aaron Anderson had a big game, 5 catches, 64 yards. Second on the LSU receiving chart to Kyron Lacey, who was fantastic. Kyron Lacey, 7 catches, 94 yards, including a touchdown. So those two guys lit up the Trojans defensive backfield. But again, it was more of a bend, don't break thing. When that play to Aaron Anderson happened, he was wide open behind the defense, and on a cut, not an out route, bringing it back to the left, he just nobody anywhere near him. I was like, where are the defensive backs? Where's the safety? He just got on the other side of him. But when it got down to the red zone, 3rd and 8, incomplete pass, field goal. So they forced a field goal there. The defense did a fantastic job of giving up plays, but then in the red zone, when it really mattered, they bowed their neck, bend, don't break. And that's a fantastic characteristic to have. So let's hope this defense continues this. Let's hope they improve. Obviously, next week, Utah State is not going to be the same challenge as LSU. That game, of course, at the Coliseum, underway on Saturday the 7th at 8 p.m. On the Big Ten Network. Forgot to mention that. Didn't really seem weird. It didn't feel any different other than the realization that the Trojans are now in the Big Ten. Beyond that, it all felt pretty normal, right? It didn't feel like Big Ten SEC to me. The other huge thing that we didn't spend any time talking about, we'll talk about it next week a little bit more, but definitely more as we get into the season here, is the 12-team playoff, something we've been calling for and whining about forever. And it's finally here. So that is awesome to see. A fantastic start here to the USC season. Fight on. A 27-20 win. Miller Moss, a fantastic performance, leading the men of Troy to victory, throwing for over 300 yards. Why is it not showing me 378 yards? Well, that was the number. This box score is just giving me fits today. Now it has nothing for no USC passing. Great. Thanks for that. I know there was some. Anyway, Miller Moss, a fantastic game, leading the Trojans to victory, and Woody Marks banging in the go-ahead game-winning touchdown in the final minutes from 13 yards to give the Trojans a 27-20 win over the LSU Tigers. Again, back at it on Saturday the 7th, 8 p.m. at the Coliseum. I will be here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel right after the game, breaking it down for you. You can also listen wherever you find your podcasts on the Locked On Trojans podcast feed. And don't forget to check out Mark Culkin tomorrow with the Locked On Trojans podcast, breaking this game down as well. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your comments. Thanks for watching and listening. We will talk to you again next week. Game 2 of the college football season for the USC Trojans, who are now 1-0 after a 27-20 win in Vegas over the LSU Tigers. Have a good night. We'll talk on Saturday.